Welcome to PJ's podcast with Pastor Joel Rice. Um, it's kind of a funny thing that I'm doing today. I'm actually going to review one of the sermons I just did at Cul-de-sac Community Church and want to kind of give some more thoughts on it as I shared on Sunday. So maybe you could review, maybe you could look up some other scriptures. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's there. Um, I You can find that on the Facebook page of Cul-de-sac Community Church. You can see the actual sermon if you want to review that first, and pause this and come back to it. That'd be great. But I think it's a good thing to actually sit down and chew on this. It's December the 2nd, 2025, and I started a new series called The King. The King is Coming Again. The King is coming again. It's not that Jesus has come. It's also that he's coming again. But there's reasons that we believe this. There's reasons that we trust this. There's reasons that we know he's going to fulfill what he said. And that's really important. A lot of times in this world with all the naysayers and the haters and all this other junk, um, do we have evidence? Is there proof? What is actually going on? So with this series, it's 5 sermons, started the last day of November and will finish through December. The sermon that I gave this Sunday was called A King Will Come. The King will come. See, we have a problem, but God has the plan. God has the plan. It's not, what if or kind of or maybe. According to the New Testament, in fact, Paul's writings, that he had this plan before the conception of the world, before he actually, called material stuff into being. And I think that's really important for us to understand that this isn't a plan B or plan C or anything else. It's the plan. And he saw us through all of this chaos. I'll get into some of that here in just a second. To be real quick, though, we have to realize our state. I didn't start with this in the sermon. I finished with it. Our state is we are weak. We're finite. We don't have the ability to fix our situation. Weakness is defined real simply as the inability to cause an effect. We can't fix what we've done. Adam and Eve broke it. God's grace allowed them to exist through the shedding of the blood of another animal instead of them dying, and a couple of animals died to cover their shame. I spoke a lot about that in the sermon, and if you watch the sermon, you'll notice I'll get a Hebrew word wrong, bara. I thought for some reason my brain had it as the word for good, and it's not. It's actually tab, and it's niab tab, which kind of means like absolutely good. The creation was absolutely, strongly good. It was very good. And yet, when the tempter came and the option was there, Eve got swept away. She was deceived and fell for the 3 major categories of sin. She saw them all in that fruit. See, that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is in the center of the garden with the tree of life. And again, these are some of these things as I was studying it this last week, except for the Hebrew word, right? That I came to realize the 2 trees are there, and they could have said yes to God and ate from the tree of life. There was no rules about it. It was just there with the other tree in the center of the garden. It was only the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that they were forbidden to eat. And when the serpent deceived her and told her that she surely wouldn't die, but you would be like God when you ate of it. You'd be wise. The author, specifically Moses, being led by God, records this statement. She saw that it was good for food, it was pretty, and it was good to make one wise. Now, what's really cool about that, in 1 John, I think it's the second chapter, John writes basically the same thing. If we have friendship with the world, which is basically the desires of the flesh, it was good for food, the desires of the eyes, it was pretty, and the pride of life, it was good to make one wise. We're struggling. We got enmity between us and God, and that's exactly what he did. She chose to eat over what she knew was true. But Adam, he didn't have any excuses. And there was no way to take it back. You couldn't just, sorry, I'm going to use some tougher words, barf it back up and put it back together and make it okay. It's even like if you're driving and you have an accident and you accidentally take somebody else's life, you can't pay back the family. They can sue and get all this money and take care of the family and the kids and this and that and the other, but it'll never bring that person back to their home. It just can't undo what was done, even if it was an accident. Hence, the struggle with what we've done. And we cannot fix our sin. So let me put it this way. Everybody that's sinned has been the cause of Jesus dying on the cross, which we're going to get to more in the next couple sermon series. So we're all guilty of murdering the creator of the world. Again, we'll get to more details on that next week and the week after. But when you think about that, if we're guilty of that murder, us really living better after we've sinned that, even that one time, that one little white lie or whatever it was. And the reality is we can't live above what we were created for. See, we were created very good, absolutely good. And to rise above what we were made for doesn't work. We can't pay back for the places that we fall short of the glory of God. We only can come back up to standard. We can't do more than what we were designed for. And there's the problem. There's the problem. So God made promises. He made promises. So it wasn't a threat to the serpent, okay? When he curses him and causes him to crawl on his belly and to eat dust the rest of his existence, which is kind of funny that we're made of dust, and that's another epiphany I had in this and I shared in the sermon, was, Adam was made from dust, and dust he shall return, and Satan eats dust. He wants to destroy us. And then he almost says it again, this is very Jewish, by the way, to say it a second time, I'll put enmity between your seed and her seed. There's that strife of you eating dust, right? In a sense. And that's all cool. But here's the part that God tells him, I'm going to take care of the problem. They're incapable of taking care of the problem. They're finite creatures. We're limited in what we can do. We were the ones who made the choice, even though Satan caused the problem, we made the choice that actually made the separation. That killed us. We died in our relationship with God and separation from him and other things that were going on. What a mess. And the reality is again, we can't fix it. So God made a promise to the serpent that he was going to. I will put enmity between your seed and her seed, and he, singular, will bruise your head, and you will bruise his heel. Now we know that when you step on a serpent's head, it's going to die. We're going to talk about what happens when a serpent bruises somebody's heel in a couple weeks. So the reality is, he made a promise from the seed of the woman, which contradicts what we know about how we were designed. We were designed that it takes two to tango. So we know that the earliest sign of the virgin birth comes right out of Genesis 3:15. Now, there's a promise later on to Abraham that through his in him, in Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, that all the families of the world will be blessed. Later in 22, after he offers up Isaac as a sacrifice, yet God stops him, he says, hey, you've obeyed me, and because of you, all the nations will be blessed in your seed. Singular again. You know, it does have some plural implications of maybe what Israel's supposed to be and things like that, but in the end, it's really pointing to one. And we know it's pointing to one because it's redefined even more when he starts talking to David in 2 Samuel. And I don't remember the exact verses. You can, again, see that online. Psalm 89 has a lot of information there besides just the promise that through David's line that there was going to be always somebody sitting on his throne. Then Isaiah 9, 6, and 7 gives the same thing, that there's going to be one from David, that the government will rest on his shoulder, and of his kingdom there will be no end. And it's not talking, Isaiah is way after David, so he's not talking about Solomon. There's somebody yet coming. And it's pretty amazing stuff that God has planned. And there's so much more to this. And I believe it's Psalm 138. I'm not exactly sure. My brain isn't fully functioning today. It actually gives the parameters, the conditions for that person to sit on David's throne, and how it could be established forever only if they follow God's ordinances and commands. Right? I mean, it's really the same thing with Abraham's descendants. If they follow me like you did, I will keep them and do this and do this. There's conditions to the covenant that he's going to offer the people of Israel. There's conditions to the promise he made with David, a covenant that he made with David for this one that will sit on his throne forever, that he's going to have to follow God's will perfectly. Well, Solomon didn't do that. None of the other ones did it perfectly. Hezekiah was pretty cool. He is a pretty good man. But only in Jesus do we see somebody that follows through completely, the line of David, God's will. And that's the thing. With our weakness, somebody has to step in and fix it. And that's what I want you to understand. God made this plan, said he would come, and we know because of, the New Testament begots that Jesus was from the line of David. He was from Abraham, and he was born to the virgin, right? The seed of the woman. So we know that from Scripture, right? So without those begots, we couldn't prove that Jesus is the Messiah. It's super important that we understand this. And he has arrived. We're going to be talking more about who really is this person, this king. How could he possibly pay for all the sins of all the world of all time? We can't pay for ourselves. So why could Jesus do it when we couldn't? And finally, how is he going to do it? How is he going to, make up for the sins and the brokenness and the death and the destruction that we do with our mouths and with our hearts and with our minds? How we break all of God's covenants and laws and rules. I'm really looking forward to this series. I hope you'll continue to join us on Facebook Live at Cul-de-sac Community Church, and then also with PJ's podcast and the follow-ups. And if you have questions or comments, just go ahead and make a comment. Send me a text. Join and follow, whatever, and I'll try my best to actually pay attention for once. Have a blessed day. May God watch over you this Christmas season as you follow him with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength. Blessings be upon you.